Okay, sure. Thank you very much, Rahul, for the warm welcome. And before I begin with anything, I'd just like to say a big thank you to the Ready Tensor team for allowing me with this opportunity to present on the topic hands-on computer vision, build production-grade models in an hour. So yeah, I would like to quickly start with some visual content that I've prepared such that we can walk through it together. So let me start by sharing my screen. So it seems that I do not have this sharing permission, Rahul. So could you please give me the permission?
Sure. Just a
Yeah.
second.
So while he does that, I just wanted to reiterate that please make sure that you guys already have access to the Tensor Academy Hub that we have created, which is actually the house for all the materials that we will be using throughout the session today. So, yeah, having access to that is going to help you have get all the notebook files and the data images that we'll be using over the session today.
Yep.
So yeah, okay. So let me quickly start by sharing my screen. So yeah, so I guess my screen is visible to you,
Yes, it
right?
is.
Okay. So yeah, welcome to the event once again, everybody. So I'll be co-presenting with Abudaya Desai, who is also the founder and CEO for Ready Tensor. And about me, I have been working in the field of machine learning, basically working in practical machine learning for a year now. I work at a company called Smart Data Solutions, with my focus being around document AI. So that's about me, and I'd like to start with the agenda that we will be following today. Rahul did provide us with an overview of what you can expect out of the session. I'd like to take some time to reiterate that and share with you all. So we'll be starting with an overview of what computer vision is. If you're a complete beginner in the field of machine learning or computer vision, then yeah, this is the session for you to have to build that brief idea on what category of the automation field under AI falls under computer vision. Next on, building upon that knowledge, we'll be walking together through a hands-on implementation of some very popular and even foundational computer vision implementations, namely image classification, object detection, and semantic segmentation. Over the course, our objective is to find the distinction between them so that we have a clear idea of when to use what and how we can achieve that using some pre-trained models available today. Next on, yeah, and this one is the most exciting part here. So we have this ongoing computer vision expo being held by Ready Tensor. We'll give you a preview of what this is about, and this is a big opportunity for anybody interested in the field of AI. So yeah, we'll be going through an overview of this, and finally we'll have some closing remarks by our founder, and we'll end the entire session with your questions. If you come up with any questions in between, please feel free to put it in the chat, like mentioned by Rahul, and we'll make sure to address it by the end of the session. So, yeah, let's start with the overview of computer vision. So, basically, machine learning, it's all about working with data. And in the sphere of data, while we are have in the era of big data, where we are talking about working with structured data set, unstructured data set, or often semi-structured data set, computer vision is the realm where we basically work with unstructured data category. And under the unstructured category, this is where we make use of the visual data. And when I say visual data, it's all about images or video frames or sensors. So any kind of research or intelligence lying around the spare of working out or finding a way through extracting information through the visual data is regarded to be computer vision. So basically, it's an attempt to mimic human vision process. And with the attempts that we have made so far, with the achievements that we've been able to make so far in the field of computer vision, there are some primal tasks that we can fluently do. One example of it is image classification. You can think of it as an approach of passing in an image as an input to the machine learning model or an algorithm, which then detects what category or class does that certain image belongs to. Next on, we have an extension to a classification task, which is also known as object detection, which is which is which is the case where I can identify the position of certain instances present in my image, and I can also identify what category does that instance belong to. Like you can see in the example that I've been able to identify different vehicles plus the people present inside the image, right? Now, moreover, uh, staying by the graph, the next thing we can also achieve with computer vision is semantic segmentation, wherein we're not just finding the location of the instance present in the image or frame, but also trying to identify the possible shape or direction of movement of certain entity present in the image frame. So yeah, these are some primary foundational computer vision tasks, which also which were regarded as the basis for many much more advanced common computer vision tasks today, out of which we can name some of them as estimating pose of a human, which is in fact a very used task under the field of sports analysis. Any player's performance can be analyzed in some regards based on the poses they tend to follow during different actions. Next on, visual question answering. This is one profusely used task in the field of document AI today. Likewise, there are a lot many more, and to name some, it's being very actively used in cases of traffic management, like even in developing nations like that of mine, that is Nepal, we've started enabling AI for active traffic management. So yeah, there are a lot many fields. There could be there's also agriculture, where computer vision is being precisely used to add all the smartness in it and make the entire process and workflow efficient. So out of all these tasks, our focus today will be on trying to understand and implement and get our hands to some of the pipelines, ready-made pipelines that we could leverage in order to perform image classification, object detection, and semantic segmentation tasks. Now, before we dive right into this, let's try to have a look into the history of where we started and where we are headed today. So, the start of computer vision, I think the rubric was entirely based on the progressive advancements we made in different image processing algorithms, different mathematical algorithms for edge detection, and different principles led rise to a very smart and efficient feature extraction process, which was actually CNN. The CNN architecture was, I think, a major breakthrough in the entire computer vision sphere. So that is something that came out with the rise of neural networks in 1980s, which then led to some real good advancements and remarkable advancements in traditional computer vision algorithms, leading towards a gateway to finding ways to practically implement those CV algorithms which were being researched upon during the time. And yeah, post 1918s, during 2000, that was when we started seeing practical implementation of different computer vision application, which was actually made accessible with the release of frameworks like Voila Jones, which makes the entire training process of face detection module much more simpler. Next on, we had the deep learning revolution, where different competitions by big tech companies, big research based companies was held, and we could really come across with some really defined and highly achieving architectures based around CNN, that could achieve remarkable performance on some state of the art data sets like that of ImageNet. And it was also when there were some new approaches to detection and segmentation released, like that of YOLO, which we will be discussing out later in this session today. And finally, I think currently we are in the era of generative AI and multimodal system, where the task is not just based around identifying or segmenting what's already present in it, but using those inputs as a basis to predict what could be next. And there comes generative AI and computer vision, like the task we've mentioned earlier of visual question answering. It falls under the sphere of multimodal system, where we are also prompting the model to identify the content of the image. So yeah, the entire sphere is advancing and finding a way towards a merger between NLP, the realm of LLMs, and also vision. So we are taking a big leap over the years, and I think this is the right time to get started with computer vision research if you have not yet already. So if you're somebody who is really interested in computer vision, then there are certain then it's very important to understand that there are certain drivers that led to the revolution that we just walked through in the previous slide. And alongside that, if you're somebody who is looking forward to make a start your career in computer vision, then these are some key concepts and things that will help you move ahead. So when we talk about machine learning, it's very important that we understand everything starts with a data set. And in order to make machine learning accessible to everybody, just like how what we're trying to do here at Ready Tensor, computer vision research was made accessible with all the open source data set that was made available, or somebody back in the time worked really hard to make it accessible. So some of the standard data sets are ImageNet, which is a collection of bunch of images of around 1000 categories, which was in fact used back in the time to held out different competitions. And even today you'll find some bunch of pre-trained models which have been trained under the ImageNet data sets with the 1000 categories. Categories as its capability to classify. Next on, we've got the Cipher dataset, MNIST, and Pascal Vogue. Many a times there are models that tend to follow a certain data type format. Often it's Pascal Vogue as XML formats that we need to export our data sets into in order to in order to leverage the pre-trained features of an existing model and use it through transfer learning for our business case. So these were about the data sets. And for an idea on where you can find the data sets, you can refer to different online open source data hubs. Few examples of it are the IEEE data port, the very popular Hugging Face platform, and also Ready Tensor, where we have a lot many AI practitioners and enthusiasts putting their data sets available for research purpose that you could leverage and make use for different further implementations that you look forward to use. Next on, in order to make the entire inferencing in order to make the entire utility, which can also include sometimes fine tuning the model and sometimes using it just for the inferencing purpose, there are certain frameworks that have been put together to make it really accessible. Out of the many, there are some that we I've seen most popularly being used. Those are PyTorch. We've got TensorFlow, Keras, and Ultralytics, which is specifically designed to make YOLO the very super efficient model, very super efficient computer vision algorithm accessible to everybody. Next on, once you are ready with the frameworks, data hubs, and key data sets, it's time to go ahead and start using some pre-trained models. And if a certain model fits into the category that you're looking forward to if it fits into the task that you're looking forward to carry out, then yeah, maybe just go ahead and use a pre-trained model. But if you are somebody you want to work on refining of it, you can definitely consider finding a way to enable transfer learning for that model, or even fine tune it further and make it applicable for your business case. This is always very much efficient compared to building a model from scratch, given the data scarcity we tend to have for isolated business problems. So yeah, these are the models. And over the during the hands-on implementations session today, we will be leveraging some of these models to using some of the frameworks that has been put here, using some of the using some of the frameworks here to find a way on how we can implement and get us put together a model, quick pipeline to get the results from a pre-trained model for for some of the business cases that we can align. So yeah, these were some of the foundational and primitive aspects to computer visions that was needed to properly understand the flow. Now I think we are pretty much ready to get started with the coding implementation that we have placed together. So for that, I would just like to reiterate that you need to have access to the webinar hub, that is Tensor Academy. Therein, you will find a publication that has been pushed for your ease. Moreover, we also have put together a GitHub repository for you to have access to the code, and all the resources can be found under the hub section. Now, I guess my screen is visible to you, all right, the part where I'm showing you the publication. So yeah, so I would also like to quickly share with you all the URL that will lead you directly to the publication so that all of us are in line together. And I'd like to dive right into the next part, or say segment of the session today. That is a practical walkthrough to what we are trying to see of building a uh, production grade model in an hour. So yeah, so if you're somebody who is looking forward to, before I dive right in, I'd like to start with what are some primary things that we can expect at the end of this walkthrough. Firstly, I strongly believe that by the end of the session, we'll be able to clearly identify the difference between some primary computer vision tasks like image classification, segmentation, and object detection. And then we'll find out some ways to very minimally set up the entire end-to-end pipeline, say taking in the input and getting out the model's result with very minimal setup, leveraging the pipelines that I showed you earlier on some slides. And yeah, take some moment to visualize the output to build a clarity on what is an extent of the model's performance. And in order to probably get a grasp of that, what's important is that we have a basic foundational understanding of the Python programming language, because the entirety of the implementation is based around Python. Next on, if you have access to Google Colab, you could just pull the notebook made available, and you can start upload it in your G Drive and start run it through to have a better experience. And yeah, you could opt for that too. And yeah, the last but the most important one, in order to make the notebook accessible, to have access of the notebook, make sure you have access to the Tensor Hubs Academy. If you do not have it, then it's always a then the way would be to just join in and request for send in a request to us for joining, and we'll make sure that it gets accepted real quick. So yeah, that's about the prerequisites. Now I'd like to move ahead with the first ever task that we have in hand, and it's called the image classification. I think this is a pretty clear task, pretty straightforward name to the task itself. It's basically we're providing an image to our model, and the image then is sent to the model to in order to identify what class or category that certain image belongs to. So it could be if there are a bunch of instances present in our image, then this prop task tends to fail, because it's likely to give us a category. Or even in cases of multi-label classification, it tends to fail because it's classification based regards a singular instance. So herein we'll be looking forward to making use of some pre-trained models to identify how we can perform the image classification task. Now, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, one way would be to put together an architecture, leverage the any of the efficient architecture, and build a model from scratch If you have enough data, great, you could go ahead and do that. But there are cases when we are really in scarce of data, then it is in such situations where we could leverage the pre-trained model. So to begin with the tags, I've simply imported some vital libraries that I look forward to use. To name some major ones, I'll be using TensorFlow and Matplotlib for visualization purpose, and the OpenCV library for image pre-processing task. Next on, I've just accessed the data sets, data test samples that I look forward to leverage in order to perform some tests or visual tests out of the pre-trained models. So here's a test image. It's of a dog. Basically, I'm trying to find what breed this dog belongs to. Yeah, looking forward. I'm expecting to get a French bulldog out of this image, and for that, I'm looking forward to use the third iteration of the Inception model, which is the Inception v3. So yeah, using the TensorFlow Keras. Before I move ahead with the Inception v3 classification, I just wanted to let you all know that this was the model that was introduced by Google back in 2015, and it is a model that has been trained with the ImageNet dataset. So basically, the data set that we discussed earlier, it's a very popular data set, which is a combination of uh, a lot many classes. Now, to give you an overview of what are the classes that we could actually predict out of the any model that has been pre-trained with the ImageNet corpus, is it's classes like a lawnmower and envelope to a dog breed. So yeah, this is the extent of the range of classes that any model trained with the ImageNet data set is capable of. Now, after having a look into the different classes, I just went ahead and leveraged TensorFlow's Keras app. This is where I used this pipe. This is where I used it to initialize my model and load in the weights from the ones that was from the ones where we trained the was that was derived from training of the ImageNet data set. So yeah, once I have the model, the first thing that I had to do was definitely to check the input expectation of my model, because this is where we need to be really considerate about what input dimension is my model expecting out of me. So yeah, it's very important to have a clear idea of input shape, because I think it's one way it gives you an idea of what pre-processing you need to undergo. Next on, it's also important because the input shape of the model gives you a clear idea about what is the cost, how cost extensive the model is likely to be, right? So having a clear idea of the model's input size will help you determine, okay, this something that I can work around it, especially in cases where you do not have enough maybe cost to leverage the model. So yeah, I took a look at the Inception v3 model, and it was identified that the model expects any image with dimension 299 by 299 with three color channels. So after having an overview, I went ahead with some pre-processing steps where I just first off I made use of the image input size and resized it and brought it down to a size that my model expects. Now, this interesting thing about TensorFlow or any of the frameworks that we use, that whenever there are certain level of additional pre-processing layers added during training of any of the model, there are definitely some level of pre-processings, say normalization of the image arrays undergoing. So for that purpose, the Keras application module itself, it does provide us a pre-made abstracted form of method that makes the entire pre-processing really simple. So I just straightforward imported the module to pre-process the entire image. And yeah, once I had the image ready, the pre-processing ready, I just sent it to my model, the one that I initially loaded, and here is what the result looks like. So basically, my model predicted the image to be sunglasses with a confidence of 53 percentage. Now, Also like to mention that yes, the model that I had loaded did predict the image to be a French dog, but the problem was it did not. It was not the one. The prediction was not with the highest probability. So in some ways, I think the task that I was trying to do failed. Right. So there are likely to be cases where a pre-trained model is not going to work in an expected manner or fill the category that you're looking for your business case. But the really interesting thing of the entire open source AI community is that you can always find a specialized pre-trained model in that regard. So finding a pre-trained model, maybe from Hugging Face or even ReadyTensor, will help you find a really tailored model that could fit in your requirement. So I did a quick search and I found a model that was a pre-trained version of the ResNet 152 architecture. It was trained around the Stanford's dog breed dataset, and I leveraged this model and using the transformer framework built by Hugging Face and posted. I could identify that the same image was identified as a French bulldog, right? So this way you can always identify, you can always find a more tailored data set model, if you give it a good search, right? So even if you do not, the good thing is you can always further fine tune it and expect a level of good performance. But yeah, that does not happen in an hour. We might come up with a similar session next time. But yeah, so this is about the classification task. Now moving ahead, we have second task. We've already made through the very first foundational task. Next on, we've got object detection. Now this is where I think detection can also be identified as I would say object localization. The prime objective of the object detection task is to identify what intent. It's a combination of localization plus classification. It's identifying at what location, what object, what category of an object is present. So yeah, that's the theme around object detection. So basically, we can perform or the whole realm of object detection. It started with an approach two-stage approach where basically an entire input frame was classified into multiple prominent reasons, right? So that is no and once the prominent reasons were identified, they were further classified as what might be the possible instance or class of that instance, that reason. So that's regarded as reason-based CNN. That's the two-stage model. But later on, back in 2015, we had YOLO coming into play, which really transformed the way we did things, which came in with a new approach that was one stage models, which went ahead and performed pixel wise identification of what whether certain pixel mask is likely to belong to a certain instance or class or not, right? So today we are going because YOLO was proven to be very much efficient compared to two-stage models. We see YOLO being leveraged in many real-time scenarios because of the efficient quick inference and efficiency we see it giving, right? So in order to make and another very interesting thing is, in order to leverage YOLO, you could actually use the Ultralytics Live framework that has been put together, which is entirely free. You could just leverage it, and the entire pulling of the data set and inferring the result is way really simple, right? And it's not just for just random images coming into your pipeline, but also if you're looking forward to formulate it inside a real time setting, it's efficient even in that regard. So we see a lot many implementations of YOLO, different iterations of YOLO models being governed with the Ultralytics framework. So herein I'd like to show you and with you an overview of what it actually looks like. So we have Ultralytics being imported. We import the YOLO module out of the Ultralytics library. And yeah, once again, wanted to have an overview of what the Ultra YOLO 11 detection module is capable of detecting. Again, it's a range of different classes that it's capable of identifying. So I put together a test image, basically a traffic setting, maybe a highway setting where we have bunch of objects coming in. Now, this way I'm using my YOLO model to identify the objects. First thing, the image classification task, where I try to identify what are the instances, what are the name of the instances. And next in, I could find the position of the instances, where in images do these instances lie. So yeah, this is my test sample, and I simply plug in the model and call in the dot predict, the predict method of the module, and looking and what based on the result, the model was able to identify 10 top objects from the image. Now I would like to quickly visualize this. Here's a visualization that I've done of what are the images that what are the objects that it could actually identify. So yeah, you could see that it has been able to identify multiple all the cars. Actually, if you took a notice, you could see that the screenshot that I put it in the slide, it is very much similar to that one I have it here. But this object here was actually identified as a truck. That's because I had used YOLO 8 V8. Now yeah, you can see that the amount of improvement in accuracy we have been seeing in over the iterations of YOLO models being released. So this is an example of it. And yeah, this is how the object detection pipeline works. Now, this is a setting that I could use to analyze what is the status of my parking lot. I'd count the number of vehicles present in my parking lot and whether to allow a new vehicle to come into place or not. So this is an example of a real life business case setting, right? So next on, I'd like to quickly move towards the next part, which is image segmentation, which actually builds around the periphery of image object detection. So we had the reasons identified, but just the identification of reasons might not come handy. Think of a situation where you're trying to identify whether the a cancer cell present in your body is whether a cell present inside your body is cancerous or not. I think it's something that is very much weighed around by on the basis of what's the growth rate of that cell. And in that cases, I think it's not just the location, but rather the shape of the cell, which comes which comes into a which plays a big role. So in cases like that, we could actually leverage the image segmentation task. So for that, YOLO does V11. They do have a segmentation model trained. Herein, we have a model called segmentation. I just downloaded a model from their official website called YOLO V11 Seg. So I have the model file loaded using the YOLO model, similar to what I did for the detection module. And this is what the test image looks like. And like what I did for my object detection problem, I did send in the image to the segmentation model. Herein, something minutely different that I did here is that I did pass in a threshold here. Any predictions below zero point 0.5, I do not want to consider it. So yeah, I did the inference using this line of code, and this is what my result looks like. Now you can see that YOLO V11 is pretty efficient, very efficient in identifying different instances or objects, and even segmenting it in order to bring out the proper shape of the instances present in our case. Now you can see that the band members of the Beatles are different entities, right? They're not just one thing. So now what the segmentation example that I showed you is an example of semantic segmentation, because we're not classifying different entities, but rather considering it to be one group. But if I'm to go ahead and identify this was member one, member two, member three, member four, then it turns out to become an instance segmentation task. That is definitely something that you can look ahead once you start your journey in computer vision. So yeah, this was a practical walkthrough on for the process. Now something yeah So yeah, one minor thing that I would like to add here, and I think I missed it on the during the course of the implementation, is whenever we are working around such models, there is definitely distinct evaluation metrics that we use for evaluating the performance of the model. So when you're performing a regression task, we go ahead using metrics like, say, mean squared errors, right? Likewise, for any kind of classification task, we go ahead build up a confusion matrix to identify what does the performance look like for respective class. Or you could also go ahead and build up a classification report. The similar approach, it is used in image classification problem. Whereas when it comes to segmentation and object detection, you might be thinking that this might not really work, because any detection prediction made by the model might not always be a complete overlap of the actual value that we have. So for cases, in order to mitigate those cases, there are certain metrics that we used. Those are called the we have metrics like Dice coefficient, which is used to identify the what percentage of union intersection over union we do have between the predicted and the actual levels. So these are some example of evaluation metrics that are used to evaluate the state of the art performance of certain models in a common data set. So yeah, this was about the workthrough. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it up on the chat section, and once we have time at the end, we'll be addressing it together. We'll be addressing it at the end of the session. Now I'd like to go back with the third part of the session today. Yeah, we do have a very big announcement. Actually, we have this, sorry, I missed. Really sorry for that. So yeah, so we have this expo currently happening, where you can send in your submissions, computer vision project submissions. The portal is open from November 25th to December 30th. So yeah, make sure you buckle up and send in your submissions really quick. This is really a big opportunity, because we're not just providing a prize to one winner, but we are selecting four different prizes for four different categories. We'll have a best overall, most innovative, best technical implementation, and most engaging presentation. We also have some additional perks that you can see on the screen: around $2,000 of cash prize, 1 year pro subscription to ReadyTensor, and digital certificates, and of course a big bonus point for you, an opportunity to meet with different other AI practitioners. So if you're a student, researcher, professional, if you are an individual or a team, doesn't matter, just go ahead and send in your submissions. Any kind of we are very much welcoming towards any kind of innovative solutions. So you can just go ahead and join us. The theme of the expo currently is, it's around intelligence. You can send in your submission in regards to any kind of multimodal systems or computer vision algorithms. And yeah, I'd just like to mention that we might be having something away from the spare, like maybe something related to NLP entirely coming up in the future. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And this is about the expo. If you have any questions regarding this, any minor to major questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. We'll be addressing it during the end of the session. Now, moving ahead, I would like to call in, the founder of ReadyTensor, Mr. Abhyuday Desai, for some of the keynotes for the session today. So yeah, let's welcome him with a big, huge round of applause. Yeah, you could virtually clap, I guess. So Abu, over to you.
Yeah, no applause necessary. Prakriti, thank you so much for taking us through that very insightful, presentation and the webinar. Let me introduce myself. I am Abhyuday Desai. I go by Abu usually, and I'm the founder and CEO of ReadyTensor. Let me give you a little bit of a background on ReadyTensor. We are at ReadyTensor. Our mission is to build a platform where the AI, ML, and data science community can share and showcase their work and also learn from the work of others anywhere in the world. The big motivation for us starting this company and working on this platform was the work that our team had been doing previously before we got here. And what we found was while we were working with some of the big name companies, Fortune 500 companies in the US and outside, that many of these companies are working on the same problems. They're trying to solve the same problems. But usually they're working on their own bespoke, customized solutions and not really leveraging what others have done previously. And I thought that's a huge waste of resource and time. And what if there was a platform where people can showcase their work, share their success stories, as well as what hasn't worked for them, and others can learn from that. That would accelerate the journey for everyone and would be the most efficient use of our time. So that was the motivation for us, and the platform is being used by our community. As you can see, if you go to the community right now and on the platform, a lot of projects are being shared, a lot of knowledge being shared, and it's quite a thriving community at this point. Regarding this webinar today, the goal was for us to help you understand, reinforce the point that we are at a stage where we really don't need to be building these things from scratch, right? These advanced AI techniques are so useful and valuable that you could use a model that has been built by someone else, especially a pre-trained model with transfer learning capabilities. And in 9 cases out of 10, it would fit your use case. So no reason really to start building your own custom models. Start with something that is already there, try it, and in some cases you might need to fine tune it. So hopefully you can do that as a takeaway from this webinar. I also want to take back to the point Prakriti was making about the competition. It is a competition, but it is open for everyone, from beginners all the way to most advanced practitioners. And I really welcome you to participate, because even if you're just starting your journey, this is a platform built for people to basically chronicle your work, right? As you go through the journey, as you're doing projects, start documenting that. I feel like that's a very important part of learning process, is when you start documenting your own work and share it on some platform. And this is why ReadyTensor was created specifically for data-centric projects. So yeah, definitely, I would welcome you to maybe get one of those data sets that Prakriti mentioned from the data hubs. You already have access to these pre-trained models. Even ReadyTensor has a number of image classification models built in a reusable manner. You can check them from the models catalog on our platform. But yeah, try something, even if it's a simple use case. You get started on the journey, do a project, put it on the platform. You will also see how others are doing their work. You can pick the best ideas from there. We are building this in a transparent manner. We want people to share their knowledge and others to learn from it. So yeah, feel free to try what others have done, and you reproduce their results or do your own thing. So I hope you found this to be useful. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us in the future as well. But yeah, let's open it up to the group for any questions you might have for today's session. All right, Rahul, you want to take over as a moderator?
Yeah, sure. So we have some question, but I think you have already answered to the question just now. But yeah, there's some other user who is also asking on the other chat that, like, how do you see the future of OpenCV? Like, because right now the highlight is LLM, right? So what is the future of working on OpenCV?
Prakriti, should I take this, or you want? Yeah, either is fine.
Yeah, it's for you both. Yep.
Okay, let me take a stab at it. Yeah, so I assume you're not specifically asking about OpenCV, the package, but more about the computer vision domain. So yeah, Definitely, NLP is the hottest thing right now. Everyone wants to work in NLP, but yeah, computer vision. You might be surprised if you haven't worked in computer vision that much that CV has applications also in pretty much every industry, and even in industries that you might find not to be glamorous, not to be on the bleeding edge of technology. Prakriti mentioned earlier, like agriculture. There's smart farming techniques. There's computer vision being used to detect, the if the crop has any diseases on it, if it's time to harvest, what to predict the yield of the crop. There's a lot of applications there, and I've personally been involved in some of the most boring industries like financial services. Nobody thinks of banks as being leading on technology, but some of the most advanced work to you might be surprised to know this, but some of the most advanced AI applications are in banking, for example. Yes, Prakriti mentioned she's in Document AI. There's project literally on the platform right now, part of the competition, where there is an application of OCR, optical character recognition, which is a computer vision application. So yeah, it's definitely a very powerful technique or area of AI that you should be aware of, you should be proficient in, because I'm pretty sure if you are in this space, there will be a time when you will have an application of computer vision that you will need to solve.
That's true. All right. So, is there any more questions from the audience? Because that's all for question that I have for the session. But I do have a personal question to Prakriti, though. Meanwhile, if you guys have any question, you can put it in chat. But I have one question to her. Like, how does the document AI works? Like, from end to end. Like, how does the document data is collected, and how is the model trained, and also how is the inferencing is being done? So, I just want to get to know about that. Yeah.
So I think it has many aspects to it. It really depends on what kind of implementation you're trying to build. So my focus right now is on trying to automate the US healthcare system. So my primary focus is it lies around from trying to identify what's the category of the images, like from identifying whether it's a claim being dental or professional or institutional, to trying to identify, trying to properly extract the unstructured form of the document to a structured format. For that, I think there are different approaches to it. Usually, for sequentially available data or a document that usually comes in a sequential form, we could go ahead and leverage some pre-trained BERT models for performing downstreaming it to perform some named entity recognition tasks. There are also cases where we are to extract the bill lines out of the images, which I think there are some really good uh, and state of the art table extraction and detection models. One example of it is the Microsoft's table transformers, which is really good. We could definitely leverage it for fine tuning purpose. But yeah, the boring part there definitely is work finding a way towards preparing the data set. We need to, many a times we can definitely reach a level of automation, but in order to not induce any kind of biasness, there definitely needs to be some sort of check, a proper understanding of what the data actually looks like. So a lot of the time goes around preparing the data set based on what our need is. And yeah, the later part of it goes around finding the right pre-trained model to fine-tune it for our case, and then plugging it in together, testing it, and yeah, getting the entire end-to-end pipeline ready. So many a times we cannot go straightforward use a pre-trained model, but yeah, having a pre-trained model like ResNet helps a lot because it just makes the entire feature extraction process really simple.
All right, that's
Yeah.
an amazing explanation. So, hats off to you on doing those kind of work. So, yeah, so I don't think we have more questions, but if you guys have any questions, you can directly reach us at around at the email called community@redditensor.ai, or you can reach out to us in any of our LinkedIn. we are open to discussion. So we support you guys as well during any questions. So yeah, let's wrap up the session here. So as we wrap today's session, I would like to extend my heartfelt thank you to all of you for joining us for this insightful webinar. This is our inaugurative event as well. So we'll be having more sessions later on. And we hope you found today's session valuable, and it inspires you to take your computer vision projects to next level using in the Ready Tensor platform as well. A big thank you to our speaker, Pragiti Regmi, for sharing her knowledge, expertise, and also practical tips with us. So
Thank you
before
for
we
having
conclude,
me.
a few like quick reminders. Don't forget to check out the Ready Tensor Academy Hub on the Ready Tensor platform to continue exploring more resources. We'll have more webinars that are coming in. We'll announce it through our LinkedIn as well, and also through our website. Get ready to showcase if you want to partake in Computer Vision Expo 2024. Our registration is still open. You can check out in our competition tab, and you can showcase your skills on computer vision. So if you have any further question or need any support, you can reach us at any LinkedIn pages or LinkedIn profiles. If you have any question over there, he's open to any questions. He's a very curious guy, and all the team here at Ready Tensor are very curious, and want to get to know you more. So yeah, thank you again for being part of this session. Have a great day, and we look forward to seeing the incredible models that you build. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.